Hi, my name is Greg. Welcome to Nantucket Cooks. Today we're going to be making a North African spiced roasted chicken breast. Really simple. We're going to utilize a pre-mixed spice blend so we don't have to go out and find a million different things. We're going to do a simple marinade, dry marinade, more of like a rub. And then we're going to do a quick pan roast, finish it in the oven. Chicken's going to be awesome. It's going to look great, taste great. You're going to love it. For today's recipe, we're going to use a cut of chicken called the airline breast. Sometimes it's called a Statler breast. It's a skin-on, boneless, semi-boneless breast of chicken. It still has the wing bone on it. Because of that wing bone, we're able to keep the skin on it, and it looks really, really nice for presentation as well. Let me show you what a Statler breast looks like, an airline breast. These are beautiful Murray's Family Farms, really nice, all natural. It's got a beautiful chicken breast, tenders usually removed, and then we have all this nice skin and the wing bone. Why they call it an airline breast is because it still has the wing on it. We're gonna do 4. And it is important that as we get them out, you can see the skin sometimes gets bunched up. We really want to spread that out. The idea of the Statler breast is that we want to take advantage of that skin, get a nice sear, good looking color on it. Sometimes they'll come with the tender still on it. I tend to remove the tender and cook it separately just as a snack. That way all the chicken I know is going to cook at about the same period, at the same amount of time. We're going to take the chicken and put our little combination rub on it. As I mentioned before, we're going to use a spice blend. This is a blend called Ras El Hanout. It's got turmeric, lots of kind of Indian curry, subcontinent, North African spices. Smells great. We have about 2 tablespoons here, which is more than enough for 4 chicken breasts. We're going to sprinkle the spice on. We use about 1 tablespoon of our spice mix on there. We're going to go ahead and add a real healthy pinch of salt as well. And now we'll use our hands and rub all that good stuff together. Wish you could smell this. It just smells great before we even get to any cooking. So once we have a good amount of spice and the salt set on that chicken, we're gonna put that chicken off to the side and just let it rest for about 20 minutes, half hour. Loosely cover it, put it in the fridge, and then we're gonna get back to it and get ready to roast it. So now we're ready to cook the chicken. It's gotten its dry rub on it, it's gotten its spice, its seasoning. Had a chance to let it rest for a little bit, let that penetration, that spice penetrate, make sure that it's a really, really delicious just flavor, and it's not just gonna be spiced from the outside. By combining the spice and the salt together, the salt really helps kind of penetrate that, pull the moisture out, and really have some nice depth of flavor for this chicken. You're gonna love it. We're gonna use a heavy cast iron pan. You're gonna wanna use one of your bigger pans, especially if you're gonna cook all 4 chicken breasts. It's nice to make sure you have enough room for everything in there. It is very important that you take some time to heat up the pan. Like I said, cast iron works great at retaining the heat, but if you don't let it get that heat first, then the retention doesn't matter. So let it get nice and hot. That way when we put the chicken on there, it doesn't cool down the pan, it just heats up the chicken. And that's what they mean by heat retention. As I mentioned before, you want to make sure that the skin is nice and covering the entire chicken breast so that it stays there nice and crispy. I'm just going to lay that chicken down. As the chicken begins to cook, it's important that you don't do much. Let the chicken sit there, let it start to get some color, let the pan do its job. If anything, you can move it around a little bit, make sure the oil hits all the sides and edges, make sure things start to brown completely. Leave it centered on the heat and just be patient with it. You can see it fills up the entire pan. So if you have a pan much smaller than this, you're gonna have to use 2 to get all 4 chicken breasts going. Oftentimes when cooking chicken breast with the skin on, you'll notice the skin shrinks down or it peels off when you go to remove it from the pan. So this cut takes care of that by having that chicken wing in there. It has the skin something to hold on to. So if you want to take a look at how it's going, pick it up by the wing and take a look under the skin. You can see it's starting to get some really nice color on it. In the industry, we call it golden brown delicious, GBD. That's what we're looking for on this. The chicken's starting to look really good to me. The skin is golden brown, delicious. So the next step for us is to turn the chicken over, and then we're gonna throw it right into the oven. If you don't want it to smoke so much in your oven, after you turn it over, let it rest for a minute, let it stop sizzling and sparkling, and that'll help keep your oven cleaner and help keep the smoke down as well. So now we'll throw the whole pan into the oven. You can still hear it sparkling and spackling. That's little bits of oil shooting up. So if you put that in the oven right now, those little bits of oil will hit the element or the fire in your oven and might cause a little bit of smoke. So we'll just let it relax for a little bit. Because of the heat retention, it is still cooking. And because we've cooked half of it on the pan, it's actually gonna cook very quickly in the oven. Let's say somewhere between 8 and 12 minutes. We always set the timer a little bit short so that we can know that it's done. Set the timer for 10 minutes. When it comes out, I'll show you how to see if it's done. Oh, that must mean the chicken's ready. Let's take a look. After 10 minutes in there, the chicken looks great, but we're gonna make sure it's done. When chicken breast like this, the place that takes the longest to cook is right by the joint where the bone hits. So we're just gonna give it a little poke-see. It's nice and firm all the way around. I know that the chicken's done. We don't wanna get into it right away though. You wanna let it rest for at least 5 minutes so that it's not really boiling anymore, so it just has a chance to calm down. That's gonna help our chicken stay nice and juicy. We'll put the chicken off to the side till we're ready to eat. Next, we're gonna put together our roasted cauliflower recipe. The first thing we're gonna do is cut up the cauliflower. I'm gonna show you how I like to do that. We're gonna use a paring knife. We're gonna do our best to protect the florets. So it's a great little technique for that. We're gonna use our knife to get rid of the middle of the cauliflower. Once we got the majority of the stem out, we're gonna go ahead and go back into it. We'll use our thumb as a marker on the knife so it doesn't go too deep. Use it as like a little depth gauge. That way we don't go all the way through and cut ourselves. Then we just break the cauliflower up into these big florets. And then I'll show you one more time another technique that we use in order to get smaller bits. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut through the stem most of the way and then just break it. That way we don't have all the little white bits of the florets falling apart. It breaks on a more natural line. And it's a good technique. Works well for cauliflower or for broccoli. When you use this technique, you don't end up with a bunch of little white bits all over your cutting board. Everything gets pretty much well utilized. Now that the cauliflower is cut up, we're gonna add one more ingredient to really kind of make it brighter and make it shine a little bit. And that's gonna be a whole lemon. I'm gonna slice the lemon, peel some of the seeds out of it, and just toss the sliced lemons with the cauliflower, oil, salt and pepper. We're gonna roast them all together and it's gonna give it a nice little look. We're gonna add a little bit of oil, and we're gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. We'll toss it all together. We always want to make sure everything's spread out nicely so that everything gets a chance to cook really well. And we'll take these lemon slices and I'm going to put them up on top of the cauliflower. If you leave them on the bottom of the pan, they'll end up kind of just burning to the pan and they won't have that lovely little bit to them. They'll just be more of like a little burnt little bits. So we'll take the lemon slices, put it on top of the cauliflower where they'll do some good and where they won't burn too much. A little bit of burn is okay, and you'll see when it comes out, it's got a nice look to it. We're gonna get that ready, put it into a preheated 425-degree oven. If you have a convection oven, might as well hit that convection oven, make sure that it cooks nice and thoroughly. We're gonna set the timer for about 12 minutes. After 6 minutes, we'll turn it around, we'll check it, we'll see how it's going. We'll release the steam out of the oven. A lot of times when you're cooking things at a high temperature, this oven can fill up with steam, and that can cause the things, instead of roasting, to actually steam and get a little too soft. So by opening the oven in the middle, spinning it around, we make sure that the heat is evenly exchanged from the front of the pan to the back of the pan, and we also do our best to make sure that it doesn't steam and it just roasts and stays nice and firm. Cauliflower goes in, 425-degree oven for about 6 minutes. We rotate the pan, and then another 6 minutes. Cauliflower looks beautiful. I love the look of it. We're gonna let it rest for a little bit and cool off, and then we'll finish it with a little bit more olive oil. The next element we're gonna put together for this meal is going to be farro. Very, very straightforward, very simple grain. Farro's delicious. It's an ancient grain. We're gonna cook it very simply with water, aromatics, bay leaf, salt, pepper, and fresh thyme. All those things are great. If you wanted to use something else that you like better, no problem. We're gonna do a nice quick 3-to-1 ratio. 1 cup of farro, 3 cups of water, aromatics and seasoning. Bring it up to a boil, down to a simmer, and let it simmer for about 15 or 20 minutes. We'll let that come up to a boil, put a lid on it, turn it down to a simmer, and we'll check it out for about 15 minutes. Everything's done. That's all it took. We now have farro that's cooked and ready to go. Take a look at that. Perfect. For the chicken, we're gonna slice it a little bit. It makes it much easier to eat and makes for a nice presentation. You wanna set up the chicken to cut it on an angle, but you're always gonna be cutting towards the bone. So, nice big slice or two. Then all of a sudden, we've got something that looks much better on display. It also gives the people the opportunity to eat less than a whole breast if they'd like. Looks perfect. Then you want to make sure you take all the juices left in the pan and utilize them. They're really beautiful. A little bit of oil, a lot of juice from the chicken, and just pour it right over everything. And there you have it. North African roasted chicken breast, roasted cauliflower, and aromatic farro. Enjoy.